I think it's noon.
I think so.
So why don't we kick this off? What a treat to have you. You have not got a chance to catch your breath yet. You know, at one level, it's not even fair to have you in because you barely know where your desk is. But
I do know that, right?
Okay, well, good. You've got that. You've got that part.
Taken care of, yeah.
And I think you've seen a couple of these, so you know the purpose is just to have our faculty and staff get to know a variety of individuals here at the college, right. And it is such a treat to have you as our new executive director. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here. Have had a great almost 2 weeks of being here. It's been a lot of fun.
It's right. You've had multiple trips to the Salt Lake area, right? Eventually you'll be here.
Eventually, we've still got a couple of weeks before we're here permanently, but can't wait. Things looking good though.
Good. Yeah, I have really enjoyed having you here. It seems like a great fit. You have got a fascinating background, and you know, a good way to do this. This isn't fair because it's just like a softball for you. In fact, it's almost on a T-ball stand.
You keep tossing me the softballs. I don't care.
This is almost a T-ball question, but. Go ahead and do maybe 3 or 4 minutes of your background and what you've done, especially in that area of philanthropy. And you've got an impressive background.
Well, okay, I'll start at the beginning, and some people may have already heard this spiel, but I graduated from the University of Utah and went from there to I graduated in mass communication and English, and from there I started my career at Children's Miracle Network. I didn't actually realize that nonprofit when I was starting school. I didn't realize nonprofit was an option. I did an internship at the Arthritis Foundation, and one day I asked the people working there, and I said, "Wait, you're not all volunteers?" And they said, "No, we actually get paid to do this.
This is a day job."
All of a sudden, this option opened up to me I hadn't considered before because I thought it was for me it was a good fit to do something that helped people, I guess.
Right.
And so I started at Children's Miracle Network, and most of the time there, I worked with their collegiate activities, specifically with something called Dance Marathon. And the name is it is what it sounds. It's something where you're up on your feet, you know, you get pledges for hours, and you do this to raise money for local children's hospitals. And so it was just new when it started. Mm-hmm. I think it'd been going for 6 months, and it was a kind of a pet project of the CEO. And I'd been there a few months, and he asked me to take it on, and I said, okay, sure, because it paid more, and I got to travel. I had no idea what it was, but it was boy, 6 years of traveling to small towns in big cities and small schools and big colleges and universities all over the country and into Canada even. It was great. And so I worked with national fraternities and sororities who had us as their charity of choice. And it was just really interesting having just come out of college to still have that connection to it. So I loved it. But boy, a lot of travel. And then I worked for some time with doing promotions with a couple of grocery store chains in the southeast and the northeast of the United States. Mm-hmm. And from there, I actually came up to this area. I started in 2002. I started at BYU, Idaho, as I focused on corporate and foundation giving to start out with in their philanthropies office. And I was there almost 16 years. And I transitioned from corporate foundation to major gifts toward the end of my career there. And so in almost to the day that we're going to be moving back, we moved to Utah.
Right.
To work with Intermountain Healthcare.
Right, exactly.
And so there at Intermountain Healthcare, I've been working to raise money for hospitals in Utah County. And that's been the focus of my job since then. So I have had a bit of an experience with doing events and membership organizations and promotions and, you know, customer facing, and then writing grants and working with individual donors. So I think that's why this sort of opportunity attracted me so much because I like variety, and it'll give me a chance to do all that.
Oh, this will be a variety, all right.
Yeah.
So now you're married and you've got kids.
Yes.
I want you to give us a little bit of
Yes,
of that.
married, 3 kids. They're all the youngest one in fall went up to Rexburg, so we're empty nesters.
Oh, I remember that. It's a fine time of life, isn't it?
I was a little nervous going into it.
Well, that's good. You should be
She's gonna get
nervous.
sick of me. How am I going to manage this?
That's right.
But it's actually been a ton of fun. Ton of fun. We've got 2 girls in Rexburg. One of them's married. One of them's engaged. And we're planning a wedding too, by the way.
Good.
That'll be next month. And then we have a son in Seattle who graduated from Utah State. I think it was Christmas, that winter or fall semester, he graduated. And he's been living up there, doing his thing, and enjoying all the excitement that Seattle now has to offer.
Exactly. That's right. It's
That's
not a dull life.
That's actually just blocks from where he lives. So I don't know if I'm excited about that or worried. But
Well, he'll be fine, but
Yeah,
it is certainly living an interesting life.
do that while you're young. That's what I say.
Well, okay, so here is one of the things that is intriguing. You are accustomed to big organizations. BYUI is a large organization, a university, and several hospitals, and we're a startup community college. It doesn't seem like a normal progression for someone of your background and stature. So why a community college?
Well, again, the variety attracted me to it, but I think that there's no harm, that's an understatement, no harm in a community college thinking big. And I think
that's great. I like that.
And I think you are. And that's one of the wonderful things. You talk about future tech. I mean, there's so many things that if a donor came in the door today and I sat down with that donor and said, well, what's your interest? We could talk about their interest, and there are 4 or 5 different things we could point them to. There's scholarships, there's future, there's so much technology going on. And the impact that has on the economy locally is really much, much greater than I thought it would be. In fact, I think I was a little naive coming to this because I didn't realize College of Eastern Idaho's place in the community. I'm starting to realize that it's very different than what I thought, and in a good way.
Yeah,
I think it's growing. People are going to start knowing about it if they don't already. And so for me, I don't see it as going from a big organization to a small one. I just see it coming to a place where there's an opportunity to get in on the groundwork and make something big, make something lasting. And I in the interview process, I mentioned that, and it wasn't just lip service. I really think that this is a great place to do that.
So for most of us, for a lot of these people that are, watching or listening in, they knew what they were getting into, because we are not a 50-year institution. There are 2 of those community colleges in Idaho. One is kind of midlife, maybe 11 years, and we're startup. So for a lot of people watching, a startup is interesting, and they're enthusiastic about it. What I've told most people when I've been involved in an interview is, in the rest of your career, you will probably never be at the startup of an organization again if you stay in education. Very, very unlikely. So again, I think the story is important. Maybe talk a little bit about the story of the college and what you do then to provide interest to potential donors.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Well, the image that comes to mind, I don't know if you've ever run like a half marathon or a marathon, but what happens is you train for all this time. You take months to train, and there's buildup, and then it's race day, and you get up early and you come to the place, and I don't know if you may have to get bussed to the starting line, or you're there early and everybody's dressed in the race and everybody's got the bib. It's all exciting, anticipation. Oh, we're 5 minutes away from starting, and then it's 3, the countdown, and the gun goes off, and all this excitement, and everybody kind of starts jogging.
Right.
And it's and you don't sprint at the beginning. I don't sprint at the beginning. I'm not that fast, but it's a lot like that, because we're at the beginning and we have to be patient. And that's how you build it, is you start with where you are. Who are the people we're connected to? Let's start with the trustees. Let's start with the foundation board. Let's start with the people the faculty know. Who can we get in front of to tell our story? And so you just start, and it's not a sprint. It's a marathon. It's long. There are going to be times when you're running, times when you're maybe going a little slower because it's uphill, but that's okay. You got to be in it for the long haul. And that's been my experience with when I talked about Dance Marathon. That was a startup,
Right?
And Corporate Foundation of BYU Idaho, that was a startup because I was the first person to focus on that. They had a couple of things going on, but I had to build it. And it's going to be similar here. There are some wonderful things in the cooker, as you know.
Absolutely.
However, to really get a robust, strong feet underneath you foundation, it takes a little while to really get there. So it's a long-term sort of a affair.
So you're kind of from here, and you're kind of not from here.
Right.
So for somebody that's kind of not from here, what do you do? What do you think your next month is going to look like? You had a chance to meet most of the foundation board this week. So a lot of them were on Zoom, but there were some in person, and we'll talk about foundation boards in a bit. But one of the things you have to do is to build a professional network. Right. So how does a guy do that?
Well, it's not unlike trying to find a job and how you network with people. Okay, so we met with the board.
Uh-huh.
And if there are any board of trustees or foundation board people listening, I'm planning on talking to every one of you. I want to sit down with them and get to know them, right? So I have to establish my own street cred, for lack of a better term, with the boards.
Exactly.
And so they understand me and can trust me.
Right. Okay, that's an important descriptor, isn't it?
It is important.
Yeah.
It is important because why would somebody refer a friend to somebody they don't trust?
Right.
And isn't going to take care of them. So we're looking for houses right now. I got a referral for a real estate agent in the area, and I went with that person because the person I knew, I trusted them, and when I got with that real estate agent, I trusted that we established a rapport. So you have to get to know each other first. Now, there are also faculty members who will know people in industry who can help the college. And I need to get to know those faculty members. I need to get to know the people in industry. So it's also, going to, whether it's Rotary or Kiwanis, whatever, or Givent or Civitan, I'm not sure which ones of those will be, but it's really just getting out into the community, getting to know people, and telling our story. Because I don't know if I'm skipping ahead, but the reason people give is because they believe in what you do, and they understand the impact they can make, and they can personally make on the community and on individuals. And I think that resonates with a lot of people, the fact that they can make that individual impact.
So why do you think education is so interesting to people? As a president, I've gotten into this. I've never asked anybody for anything until we moved here, and that's part of my job with you. And of course, all you do is ask, and I go with you. But it's hard for me to ask. It's probably easy for you to ask, but partially you've got to build that trust. But right. Why education? What is so interesting or maybe even sacred about education that people like and will give money to?
Well, I think my understanding of education. Okay, so my father was a first-generation college student back in the 50s.
Yeah,
he didn't actually graduate from college, but he went to enough college to get trained, to get a job, and so on and so forth.
Right.
And so as I've learned more about what education can do for not just a person, but for their grandchildren, that really resonates with me because I see that in my own family. I see what my dad's decision, and it wasn't, my dad passed away recently, so he's not going to hear me say this, but don't tell my mom because she's still living. Both of my parents grew up without plumbing. Okay. And so they weren't on the well-heeled side of town. Let's put it that way. So for them to come, I think one of my dad's greatest accomplishments was to be able to retire at 65 and be able to stay retired.
Right.
And the reason he did that was because of the education he had. And I look at my kids and my nieces and nephews, and I see what his decision, the impact that decision had on them, and certainly on me, but on them. It's a decision we make. He didn't have to go to college,
right?
But he wanted to, and there was an opportunity. And that's, I think, where we are here. There are people in this community who want what CEI has, and only CEI can give it to them, because everything is either too far away, or even BYU Idaho is too big, or they don't offer what they're looking for. And so it falls to us. And that's why I was so excited a few years ago when CEI became a reality, is because I knew that there was a role that needed to be filled that wasn't being filled. And this fills it. And that's pretty exciting.
I love that generational perspective that you've articulated. And again, depending on who you're talking to, that can resonate.
Right. I love telling donors about that, because they're the ones who often make it possible. Because as you know, a lot of students come here, they have these hopes, they have these dreams, they really want to do something, and they can see it, but they just can't get there.
Right.
And the way they get there is through donations. And so, quite frankly, I've had people point out, if you will, I've had people point out that, oh, Dave, you're a fundraiser. All you care about is the money. And my response is, yeah, I do, because I know what that money does, and I know how it can help people, and that's exciting for me.
That's the important perspective. That's why we really enjoyed meeting you, and why you're sitting in that seat right now, because I think you articulated that it isn't as simple as meeting somebody and asking them for money.
No.
And if you do that, you're going to get a tip anyway. Here's $5. Now leave me alone. So, but that's not the point. All of us are going to have years of nurturing relationships and demonstrating that we're credible. And a new institution has to demonstrate that.
Right.
So again, let's go down this path. There are two kinds of gifts, maybe more. I mean, you're an expert in this, but the two that I see would be just simply gifts. Mm-hmm. And within those gifts, some are designated, some are not. But then there's an endowment.
Right.
So talk a little bit about, especially what an endowment is, and why do we use those? And then why are there designated gifts and open gifts?
Well, gifts is kind of a little more broad, right? If you think about it that way. Gifts can be, you can give a gift of cash, you can give stocks, you can give art or real estate, software, pretty much anything of value, equipment. There have been, you can give a lot of different kinds of gifts.
We have a lot of cars.
Yes.
That don't run real well, but we have a lot of car gifts.
Well, okay, good. Well, and I'll take a tangent for a minute.
Sure, okay.
Since you brought that up, we have to be very careful about what we accept.
You don't like free kittens?
Well, it's not that I don't like them. That's another issue altogether.
Oh, Lori loves free kittens. Look at her light up.
Free kittens are fabulous if you got kids at home you personally love cats. I'm not a cat person, just personally, that's just me. However, if it's going to be useful long-term, and it's not going to cost a lot of money or construction to accept a gift, mm-hmm. then we can do it. But if they're just going to sit around and not help anybody, I don't think we need to be accepting those kind of gifts.
Okay, good.
Now we're on a tangent. I completely forgot.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I
we're talking about
endowments and gifts.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right. Gifts and endowments.
So we talked about the gifts, and we don't want kittens. So an endowment is something with those gifts. Let's say it's a cash gift. That's easy. That's the easiest kind of gift. A cash gift, you can do several things with it. You can make it immediately spendable for scholarship, say, or a building or equipment or a certain department. Those are restrictions. Or you can put it into an endowment. An endowment is a tool that you can use that money to put it into an endowment for scholarships, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
And let's say I want to help students who went to high school in Bonneville County. And so I put $100,000 into an endowment. And what happens is we have a spending policy, which we'll be discussing in the near future. We have a spending policy that says, okay, of our endowments, because this is one of many, we're going to have a 4.5% spending policy. So what happens is every year, 4.5% gets taken out of that endowment, and it's given to students who attend CEI who went to high school in Bonneville County. Now, what happens to that endowment? Let's say, for instance, that it makes 10%, which is a great return. Well, then 5.5% stays in the endowment and continues to grow, because what happens is you have years like this one where it doesn't quite do 10%.
It may not. We're only halfway through.
Yeah,
it may not.
It's early.
Yeah, it is.
It could be making 12% by the time this is all through. Who knows? But let's say it makes 2%. Well, we're still pulling out 4%. But what we don't want to do is we don't want to get it to the threshold of getting below the original donation amount, $100,000. So that's why we keep building it. And because, you're going to have things where you want to, inflation happens, and in 20 years, a $500 gift is going to be different than a $500 gift now. And so you want to change the numbers. So an endowment is something you can do with a gift. One of the many things you can do with it.
And that's perpetual.
It is. Yes.
So a $500 gift is a one-time gift and would go to a student.
And is useful.
It is very useful.
But if I'm someone who has the means to do so, and I want to have my philanthropy giving after I've passed, for years and years, decades,
right?
I would create an endowment.
Yeah, and we have a number of those. For a young institute, well, we're not young in the sense that ITech, but young in the sense of the college, and those all rolled over. But that's wonderful to know that those are perpetual gifts every year that a student can benefit from.
Right.
So let's talk about a relationship with a foundation, and those are very important because they are different.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of report to two different supervisors.
I'm serving two masters. That's
you
right.
are, and that's always a bad idea. But Chrissy Staten is delightful. But talk a little bit about what is the difference between the board and the foundation and the college, because those are two separate entities.
Right. Well, I think I'll start with where we're similar. And where we're similar is we should be going in the same direction. As the president and the board creates direction and okay, this is where we're going, this is what the college does and will do, and what we're going to accomplish, the foundation needs to be supporting that. Now, whether it's through scholarships or helping to build buildings or, again, all those things we've discussed already, those are the things that need to happen. However, it's a good idea for them to be separated because it's good for the financial stuff, if you will.
Yeah.
Just to be at arm's length. So I've said it earlier. We're going in the same direction at arm's length from each other.
Right.
Hopefully that's the idea. And again, I've seen where the university wasn't doing so well, but the foundation was very robust. And so in the university's plan to come to where they needed to be, the foundation could serve as part of the solution. And so, and keeping them separate is really a good idea.
So from a technical sense and a gifter sense, it is easier to give to a foundation. And of course, there would be tax benefits for those who give.
Yes, there are. So I think it makes it more nimble in that sense. So we give tax receipts and so forth.
Right.
That's something that we take off the university's plate. That you don't need to worry about it. We'll take care of it. We'll take care of these endowments and how those work out. what we will do is we will come up with, okay, here's some funding we have for you and the students, and here's.
Yeah, and it's a wonderful relationship. And most of the foundations in community colleges or universities, that board of directors for the foundation understand the purpose of the college or university and support it. And
I think it's important to do. In fact, we will often have alumni on there.
Sure.
And donors. So,
that's interesting, because that is an area we have not paid a lot of attention to, and we need to. So, that is an area that I think this college needs to stress a bit.
Yeah.
So let's go back to your BYUI experience, and how would you compare them, that mission with our mission? And I do want you to talk about Pathways, because that's a unique entity and something that I'm always impressed with it and the size of it and what it does. So talk a little bit about, because you've been in both now.
I have. Well, again, similarities and differences. There really are. I mean, if you go to, okay, this student, what does this student need? What does this student want? What's going to help him or her succeed? Well, what's going to be where do they want to go? They can come here and get an associate degree and transfer.
Right.
They can come here and they can get welding training and go out into the workforce. They can't do that at BYU Idaho. They have associate degrees in welding and bachelor's degree, but they don't have the training to get people out right away. And they can decide, okay, so I'm not going to put in $12,000 or so, or $20,000, and then get into the field and decide, maybe this isn't for me. They can get a taste of it. It's a smaller setting. Now, if somebody wants the kind of education that BYU Idaho offers, it's there. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
And if somebody wants the kind of education and the experience that's offered here, great, we have it. And again, it goes back to when the vote was a few years ago to make CEI, to give this option. This was just this. I mean, iTech was going and there were things happening, but it just needed to be more. And now that it is, I think it's really important for us to explain to people what the difference is. Because people, when I started at BYU Idaho, I'd been BYU Idaho for a year.
Right.
And people did not get it. Alumni didn't get it. They thought it was still Rick's college. And Rick's was here and BYU Idaho was going over this way.
Right.
And I think there's a difference there with iTech and College of Eastern Idaho. I think iTech is the core, but College of Eastern Idaho has and will be growing so much bigger. And there will be some overlap, of course, but this is still a different experience than BYU Idaho. And for students who want that different experience, there's an option for it.
And we would always have the technical mission. So a lot of times we talk about speed to degree. So how quickly can we train skills in cybersecurity or welding or nursing, and how quickly can we get them into a job? Right.
And you mentioned Pathway.
Exactly.
Right. So so if you're not familiar with Pathway, it's a program that BYU Idaho started in 2009. It was fun to see it grow because we started raising money for it about 2009, and a lot of people bought, that was part of the vision they really liked. So the people take courses online for a year, and if they pass with a B average, they can matriculate into BYU Idaho either online or on campus without taking the ACT or the SAT. They've essentially proven themselves.
Exactly. And
there are other schools. I'm not sure if we have a matriculation agreement here, but I would recommend they do, because, and this is a tangent we can talk about another time, but it's just I think it would be a really good idea for us to have some type of agreement, if I'm not speaking out of turn.
No, you're not. And I think we do. Mike disappeared. He would know for sure. You would think Lori would know.
I'm here.
Okay, so the articulation of Pathways to us?
Specifically meaning?
Does it exist?
Yeah, I mean, you can transfer. Are you asking about transferring into us?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's not, look, we're a Northwest accredited school. We have been since the 70s, since before as iTech, one thing we very responsibly did was maintain regional accreditation. So transferring in is a non-issue. I mean, you can bring your credits from BYU Idaho or anywhere else, and they will count just as they would at any other NWCCU accredited institution. Is that the fullness of the question?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
There is a path then for pathways students to come into us.
Absolutely.
Right.
And then again, a handoff back to BYUI if the student's after a baccalaureate degree.
Right. So in addition to that, so Pathway, and I think there's some overlap there with Pathway and what we're doing here, because a lot of the students in Pathway start Pathway because high school was hard for them.
Right.
It didn't work, and they didn't have any confidence to go beyond high school. And Pathway, and again, I'm talking about two different things at the same time, but because CEI does a good job of that, of helping people understand, here's a place you can come and you can have a college experience. You can see what works for you, what doesn't. There are a lot of late bloomers.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of a late bloomer myself. I mean, you look at me, you think, no, Dave had it to begin with right when he was 12 years old. No, it's not true. But
so that 18-year-old was just not what you are now.
Let's not talk about me at 18.
Yeah, none of us should talk about us at 18.
It's really not worth going into.
That's right.
but so there's an opportunity here that people, I think, in the community were missing out on.
Right.
That Pathway will get some, but they won't get them all. And with College of Eastern Idaho, we're going to pick up a lot more of those kinds of people, and we can build them up, and we can send them out the door with more confidence, with more self-assurance, and they can say, hey, I'm ready for work. I'm ready to get a bachelor's degree or whatever, whether it's BYU, Idaho State, Idaho, Utah, so wherever they want to go. That we're helping them start, and where they want to go is up to them.
So you really get us, and that's why it's so nice to have these kind of conversations, and you're showing our faculty and staff that you're not a university guy. We don't have a lot of university.
I'm more of a need of the student guy.
Okay, well, you're singing the right song, because what we really want to do is, as an open enrollment institution, take a student wherever they are. They may not speak English, and
right.
We've got English as a second language, or maybe they didn't do well in high school, and we can give them those college skills. But for a lot of donors, we have a lot of donors that I've run into that was their life.
Right.
They have become wealthy, and what can they do to give back? And I guess your job is to tell the story and see if this is a fit.
Hey, who's the first one on that list? I want to talk to them. No, that's exactly right. And there's in our industry, there's something called linkage interest and LIA, linkage interest, and I forgot the stage fright. I forgot the last one. Anyway, it has to do with ability, linkage interest and ability.
All right, good.
Okay, so really and so if you have donors, you want to look at people who have LIA, linkage interest and ability.
Good.
What's their connection to the institution?
Right.
What's their interest in what you have going on, and what's their ability to make a gift? Now, anybody can be a philanthropist. Anybody can be philanthropic. It doesn't, that has nothing to do with gift size. However, if you're talking about transformational giving, transformational gifts, where we move the needle in a big way, so to speak, that takes ability. And so the funny thing is in my experience, the least of those is the linkage. I think more important is the interest and the ability, because here's an interesting thing. You can't sit down with someone and say, oh, they're a business person, so they're going to be interested in our business, this side of things.
Sure.
Now they may be, but that doesn't mean that they are. What happens so often is there was a gift many years ago, which was a huge gift to I don't know, nowhere around here, but it was like Harvard or Stanford or something like that. And it was somebody who was a businessman, and he just built these businesses, and he was a serial entrepreneur, all this, just made huge amounts of money. And what happened is people sat down and they came in with these expectations of he's going to want to give to our business school. We came armed with all that information. But instead of that, they sat down with him and they talked to him and said, tell us about yourself. What are your interests? What kind of impact would you like to make? And the end result was him giving a huge gift to the Performing Arts Center, because that was what his passion was when it came to helping people. So we don't want to assume anything. And the first time we visit, we don't want to come with an ask all ready to go necessarily. We want to find out what their interest is, where the best fit is on campus, or if it is at all. Maybe it isn't, but you got to find out.
It may not. And again, we're not attempting to manipulate anyone, but I like the word impact, because
Right.
you know, as people move along in their careers, they want to have an impact. You may not want to leave $50 million to your kids. You know, you may want to spread that out a bit.
That can have a poor impact on your kids.
It could.
It really could.
Yes, it could. So that whole concept of impact and listening, I think, is a real important attribute. We have a number of faculty and staff on listening right now, and we need to help you. So give us an idea of how we can help you. What are the things that you would like us to do? I'm fairly confident. If, a lot of people are not good at asking for money, so we really wouldn't ask anyone to do that, but they certainly have a network and can discern impact, perhaps.
Well, I think
tell us how we help.
I think what can really be helpful is for me to be introduced to people. So here's the thing. Having worked with faculty before, some of the biggest gifts came from industry. And it was the faculty saying, you know, I have this contact at XYZ company, and they really want to help us out because they're in this industry that I'm teaching students about. And they want to build up this industry, and they see the way to build up this industry. Let's use welding for an example. Sure. The way to build up the welding industry and the availability of workers, is to build up our program, and they want to help how they can. Can we get you together and talk to these people? And so I would get together, find out what they want to accomplish, and see if that's something we could do here. And if it is, then we go down that road with them. And so introductions to people they know is going to be really big. Now, so essentially being a bird dog,
right, for
what we're trying to accomplish at the foundation is very helpful. So it's in industry. It's who else do you know? Now, the funny thing is sometimes people who are not really, they're afraid to ask, are afraid for you to ask too. And so they're like, well, I'm going to introduce this bird. Don't ask him anything. Don't ask him anything. And the reality is that we probably wouldn't. I'm of the opinion that you don't ask on the first visit.
Oh, no.
Unless somebody brings it up, and then you go down that road with them.
Right.
But the first visit is just assessing where they are, getting to know them. If it's an official sit down, you know, if you're out fishing on a boat or something, then you just have a conversation. But yeah, that's really some of the most helpful ways that the faculty could interact with the foundation is pointing out different people they know and have their own relationship with. I would really like to say, all this is going to happen. I'm just going to hit the ground. I'm going to make relationships with all these people, but that's not how it works. I mean, if you're looking for a job, even, it's not necessarily you're going to get a job with the people you know. Mm-hmm. It's going to get a job with someone they know. And so you have this network of people. And so I'm going to create this network, and they're going to know somebody else. And I know this faculty member, and she's going to know somebody else. And I'm going to know the president, and he's going to know somebody else. And that's how it all works together. I don't want to supplant anybody in the relationship. I want to go, you know, hip to hip with people, and we can all do this together. That's the best way to approach it. Because when it comes down to it, let's say there's a big gift. When it comes to that sort of thing, there are no individual awards. Big gifts, Even the ones that make the most impact, let's say, involve a lot of different people. And that's okay. You have to kind of step back from your ego and say, okay, how can we get everybody involved with this?
Well, exactly. And sometimes you may ask someone from the welding department, or you might ask somebody from the nursing department, or you certainly would ask me, or maybe you ask a trustee, would you come with me and
Right.
let's visit with this person? And again, we're trying to develop a relationship, and that's why working with graduates can be important, because this, exactly as you described, someone in 20 years who graduates this year in the COVID year, maybe another Bill Gates, who knows?
Who knows? Right. And so that's why you have to be patient.
Right.
We all have to be patient. There was one big gift when I first started at BYU Idaho. There was one big gift that came in, right, and I had nothing to do with it, but I'll take credit for it. But what I found, it was a side note from something that happened at BYU that we got some from as well. What had happened is 30 years previous, a professor there had made contacts with people, and through the years had developed these relationships and got the development office involved and so on and so forth, to where this huge thing started. And small gifts started, and they led to bigger gifts and bigger gifts. And so it's really a development. That's what you're developing is the foundation of the world.
And you just never know.
Right.
So let's take one other diversion for a moment. And you probably don't even know, because I don't know. What's been the effect of COVID? And it makes it harder for you, because it's just not like we can bring a big group together and introduce you, or you can go out, and it's made things complex. So
right.
How do you view COVID in your line of work?
Well, that's going to be interesting to find out, because this is my first pandemic.
Strangely enough, it is for many of us.
So it'll be interesting. I don't think we're really at a point where say, well, this is the impact of this on X, Y, or Z. Now we can tell people, and honestly so, that now more than ever,
sure,
giving is important.
No, that's important.
At the College of Eastern Idaho, and I think we do that, and tell that story of how not only how why giving is important, but a donor wants to have confidence in where they're giving. And I think the direction the college has taken, I think will engender real solid confidence in donors as to where we are now as a result of the decisions that we made, not just at the beginning of the pandemic, but before, to set things up. I think we're in a good place.
I don't know how you think about this. You know Bill and Shirley Make, and early on we got a gift as a new community college, and partly I am so amazed. We've known them for years, and iTech had that connection, but out of the blue one day, I guess we were maybe 6 months old, there was a $1 million gift. And you would just go, how do you trust a 6-month-old college with excess of $1 million?
Right.
And that demonstrated to a lot of other individuals who gift that if the Make Foundation believed that we would steward that money properly, and we did. You've seen the build out in the nursing realm, because that was aimed at nursing. So we have demonstrated that we're serious about these gifts and are good stewards with the gifts.
I think that's really important, because trust. Nobody wants to give a big gift to somebody who's going to squander it,
right?
Or that it's going to go to keep the lights on.
Yeah,
that's really not a visionary kind of thing. Nobody gets excited about keeping lights on. And so
let's build an admin building.
Yeah. Whoa, that's exciting. It sounds like from that, and I think going forward, it's like with any relationship. If you want people to trust you, you've got to give them a reason to trust you.
Yeah. And
you do that by proving yourself.
Well, one of the things I end with all of our guests is tell us, you've been at this a long time, and this is in the realm of leadership. So give us 3 principles of leadership that you've used over the course of your career. What do leaders need to know that you know?
Probably nothing that I know. And there's not a whole lot knocking around up there. No, I'm kidding.
Well, that's not true at all.
Okay. Well, I think the answer to that question is really more of what kind of aspiration, what do I aspire to
Right.
at that level? And the first thing is availability. I think if someone's really going to see a person as a leader, they need to be around. Now, my job is to be out in the community. So maybe physically available isn't always going to be possible. But what's going to be more available is by phone, by text, my response time. I try to keep it 24 hours if I get a message, 24 hours to return something. So being around, being available. The other thing is to lead by example. And some things in our industry are not particularly easy to do, but you just need to do them anyway. And
Right.
that I think is the hardest part, is say, okay, I know what I need to do. I don't really like doing this. It's unpleasant, or whatever word you like to use. It's unpleasant, but I need to do it anyway. And I need to do the best I can. So just do it. Just hit it. And the second thing, and again, these are things I aspire to.
Right.
It's humility. And again, I'm working on that. I think we're all working on that. But I don't think you can get a big head and be successful in this, because there are so many other people involved. It's not about you. And in the end, when the gift comes in, documents are signed, you do a press release or whatever you want to do as a result. In the end, it is not about me. It's about the students. What is it going to do for them? And if it's not going to help them, why am I even wasting my time?
Right. Good.
So you really have to come at it, I think, from a direction that's different than me. Because at the end, when I retire from all this, whenever that is, I'm going to look back on this, and what's going to be important is the people I worked with and the people and the experiences we had to make things happen. It's not going to be about me.
We will have changed a lot of lives, and of course, kids of our students will have their lives changed.
It'll be great, won't it?
Okay, was that everything?
Yeah, that's
okay.
good.
Perfect.
Yep.
No, that is really helpful, Dave.
Yeah.
So thank you.
My pleasure.
So we are right at our 45 minutes. I want to thank you for coming. I'm glad we got a chance to introduce you to everyone out there, and what a pleasure to have you. And I think you are more than welcome to ask any of us to either give you some help, or even go out with you if you need some expertise while you're talking
Wonderful.
with potential gifters.
Yeah, that's important. I mean, I know my end of things better than you may, not right now, but I will. And you will always know your end of things better than I will.
Sure.
So it'd be good to pull people into visits and things like that.
Good. Okay, perfect. Well, let me thank all of you, faculty and staff, for tuning in with us. So have a great weekend. I appreciate you all getting a chance to meet Dave. So
Thank you.
have a good weekend.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Thanks.